Hi, folks. This is Mark Smith with Family Tree Brand Life Coaches. I have a difficult video to bring to you today. In the video, I am going to do a piece of my own work. I don't know how painful this piece of work is going to be, but if you're fresh and you're shattering, or if you're fragile, I would suggest that you not watch this video because we don't want to add to your pain level. So, but I'm going to do a piece of empty chair work with my mother. There's my mother right there. This photo is a painting of my mother in her 20s, and it was put on the front of my second most popular video. I probably have 400 videos, and this is the second most popular, and it was entitled 10 Ways That Borderline Mothers Can Hurt Their Children. And if you'll remember, about 3/4 the way through, it got cut off and I didn't get to read the poem. And so many of you have contacted me and said, where's the poem? I made a part 2. I'm going to include a link below that has part 1 and part 2. And you probably need to watch the video in order for this one to make a whole lot of sense. It'll make sense anyway. What I'm saying is, this is an approach that you can use in your own therapy work. What brought this up? I haven't made too many videos lately, and that's mainly because when I was in Indianapolis, I was really busy with seeing a lot of face-to-face clients and doing some arranging of getting our new office space for come September. We found a new office space for September, and spending time with my daughter and with my friends and playing basketball. So, and then since I've been back here, I've been inundated with clients. I'm back in South Carolina at the beach. It's cold today, man, but I'm going down there anyway later. So, if you feel stuck in your work, here's a technique, and it's tried and true. It was sort of invented by a great therapist named Fitz Perls, who invented the Gestalt therapy, the Gestalt school of therapy, where they work on experiential aspects. And one of the tools he used was you would talk to an empty chair where a parent, a former spouse, anybody who you have issues with they just put a chair there, and you would pretend the person was in the chair. Since my camera only covers a small area, I put Dear Mom on an easel. And I don't like empty chairs. I like chairs that have something that represent the person. So if you have something that reminds you of that parent, like this painting, put that on the chair, and it'll perk up the energy of the work that you do. Some of you might have remembered a client who did a video with me about her EMDR therapy, and I wait to do videos until I'm inspired by something. I just don't make videos to make videos, and I've been so busy, and maybe the Lord had me on the bench. But I just haven't been inspired to make anything. And then I was working with this client who was in that video, and she has worked so hard. She's probably the most courageous client I've ever worked with, and her clinical supervisor suggested that she use the empty chair method of doing work. And by herself, without a therapist, she'd had 3 sessions of empty chair work where she was able to really cry. And this is a client that hasn't been able to cry in front of me. So I saw such tremendous advances in this person's therapeutic work all by herself. I know many of you can't afford fancy schmancy therapists with fees of $175 an hour. You couldn't, many of you, afford a therapist with a fee of $50 an hour. So I'm trying to equip you with approaches that you can do at home for free. Now, I wouldn't do this exercise by yourself. It's best done with a therapist. If you can't afford a therapist, get your sponsor or get a really wise friend who has a lot of experience in recovery. But don't do this alone. I'm doing it alone because I have been working on my recovery now for, what is it now? Ever since 1985. So I've got a little bit of experience under my belt, and I've done some really intense work. So I trust that I'm not going to decompensate in the room, and I'll be fine. When I start the work with my mother, I'm going to turn the photo and I'm just going to look at her. But I can't look at her on the TV set because then I'm not looking at you all. So Irvin Yalom, the great Irvin Yalom, who's 85 and still rides his bike and sees clients and writes 3 hours a day, he does a lot of here and now work, and this is something he would do. OnSite, the greatest healing place on earth, in my opinion, emotionally. They use experiential therapy. This is experiential therapy. So they would use an empty chair. They might have another group member sit in the chair representing mother, or they might have some props in the room representing mother. But this is powerful work. I got to tell you, folks, that when I first made this video, it's probably a year and a half ago, it was really hard to say anything negative about my mother. And I got some criticism about the video because I was in denial. I was over idealizing. I was still buying into Dear Mom's manipulations. And I can't for the life of me figure out why that video was up to 134,000 views. As it got cut off 3/4 the way through, and I was in a lot of denial about my mom. I don't know why it struck a chord. In the video, the second part, I shared a poem that I had written the night I found out my mother died on August the 6th of 1997. And the poem was filled with denial as well. And it was filled with sunshine and roses and denial, and mom had some rough edges, but wasn't she great? You know, my mom just died. And I was walking in the recovery I had in 1997. And I was writing it for a funeral. So I wasn't trying to be I was trying to be as truthful as I could under the circumstances. But the rewritten poem is a lot different than the old poem. So I'm also going to be doing some empty chair work with my father. Let me show you this. I've got a little chair here. Whoops, I dropped my dad. I've got a little chair here, and one of my dad's last girlfriends got him this little Gumby thing, and so there's the chair. I'm gonna have my dad stand on the chair, and I'm gonna do some work around my dad in a different video. So I'm also today is the 8th day of April 2018. On April 26, 2018, it'll mark 3 years exactly since my shattering, and I'll be in Indianapolis. I'm taking the day off. It's a sacred day. And it was the day that Betsy, my former fiance, shared all the information that shattered me. And I'm going to make one of these empty chair pieces of work on that day, because that'll be a pretty raw day. So please get support when you do this work, and have somebody there to hand you tissues, and make sure that you're not driving after the work, and that you have plenty of support to debrief afterwards. So I'm going to read just a little quote I got off the internet about what empty chair work is. Empty chair technique is the quintessential Gestalt therapy exercise that places the person in therapy across from an empty chair. He or she is asked to then imagine that someone, such as a parent or a spouse, or even a part of themselves, is sitting in the chair. The therapist then encouraged dialogue between the empty chair and the person who's in therapy in order to engage the person's thoughts, emotions, and behaviors. Sometimes the roles are then reversed, and then in this case my mom would talk back to me and I would take her role. I don't think I'm going to do that in this video. Sometimes the roles are reversed and the person in therapy assumes the metaphorical person or part of the person in the chair. The empty chair technique can be especially useful for helping people become mindful of the whole situation and forgotten or disengaged pieces of their own self. So that's what empty chair work is. I'm going to resituate myself here where I can look at my mom. I'm going to put her as close to the camera as can be, but I want you guys to still be able to see her. So I'm going to look at her, and I'm going to have a little talk with her. And I'm going to get a drink of water first. So, and then I'm going to read the poem that I rewrote. So, here we go. More water. Hi, Mom. First of all, I want to thank you for that letter you sent me, or you gave me in 1996, that sort of explained how you abandoned me. I know a lot of my readers thought it was BS, and there was some BS in it, but at least it explained what was wrong with me, and I'm glad for the gift of it. I think that you knew that inside me there was a ticking time bomb, and even though my life was pretty wonderful back when you gave me the letter, because I was happily married and had 3 wonderful kids and was prospering financially. I think you knew that there was something desperately wrong with me and that I would probably be headed for some real trouble. Um, Mom, if you only knew how much pain this was going to cause me, you'd have done a lot better as a mom. I need some tissue. You'd have done a lot better as a mom than what you did, because it is, I can't even put into words how painful this has been for me ever since. Ever since about 2005, I've been involved with hurtful, abandoning, raging, vicious, borderline women. And it's all because of you. In your letter, you said, you explained why you abandoned me and didn't bond with me, which was total bullshit. Yeah, you'd had surgery, but a real mom, a mom with heart and love, she would have dragged herself out of bed. She would have taken care of that baby, and she wouldn't have left me screaming in the backyard till I turned purple. So you said, but Mark, I was also expecting Sammy. How dare you? When you have a baby that you abandoned and didn't bond with, and was just put through so much agony because of your need to be a good Catholic, a year and a half later you pop out another male child, and then he's an angel from heaven who doesn't have any faults at all, and then you just drop me like I didn't even exist. To you, having a baby wasn't about the baby, it was about you having prestige as a good Catholic wife and mother, and you having the ability to control 7 children and suck them dry for narcissistic supply. The fact that I escaped from a nursery when I was 3 and 4 years old 3 times, I broke out of the joint. Didn't you think there was something fucking wrong with me? Why didn't you get out for me? I know that in your childhood that you were unbonded because you were sent to an orphanage, so maybe you just didn't understand bonding, but you knew that I never bonded to you, and you just didn't give a shit. Yeah, I would walk away, I would pull away, I would rage as a 2-year-old, but you needed to figure that out, and you needed to fix it. The core of me as a 45-year-old and still as a 58-year-old is a little infant needy baby who would rage until he turned purple while he watched his mother give her love and attention to another male. And that's why I had to find Betsy, because that's what it brought out of me. It brought out that raging till I turned purple infant when I found out that the whole time she was loving somebody else. Mom, you were just unstable. You were a flake. You defined the word chaos. You ate so much that you ate your way into type 2 diabetes. And then that caused you to rage, many times more then you were already raging. You were already raging an awful lot. So the diabetes made an unstable borderline into just an absolute monster. You were a monster. You married Dad 3 times, and you did it for money every time. So what did I do? When I was dating as a, back in 2008, I found a gold digger. I found a lying, cheating, borderline gold digger like you. You were so filled with anxiety, but you didn't protect your children from your anxiety. I remember riding in the car with you as we were moving from Texas to Montana, and we were driving through a snowstorm, and supposedly you were praying the Hail Mary, but there was no faith. Your praying the Hail Mary was bathed in anxiety, and it had me just all filled with anxiety and fear as a little boy. Why didn't you show some composure and be a fucking adult? That's my issue with you, is you never really acted like a mature adult. You were either a bully or you were a 2-year-old. I gotta tell you that I was humiliated every time I had to walk through the lunch line and say that I was the free lunch kid. This is part of you not working and having 7 children. I was so humiliated by all the cockroaches that were in our house. If you'd have been a real mom, and if you'd have kept a clean kitchen, we wouldn't have had cockroaches. But you had your stepchildren do the dishes, and they would hide dirty dishes and feed the cockroaches. And it's one of the most nightmarish things about my childhood was cockroaches. One of the most painful things that I went through in my childhood was when Lisa Marie died. You put a 10-year-old boy in charge of an infant who is only 2.5 months old, and I woke up and changed her diaper and fed her at 3 o'clock in the morning, and then she died of crib death. I blamed myself all those years. This is the onesie that Lisa Marie wore. This is a onesie that I associate her with. It's been 48 years, and I swear to God, it still smells like fresh baby. It smells wonderful. But this was my baby. You made me, as a 10-year-old, you made me in charge of a baby, and then that baby died. You didn't let me go to the funeral, and you didn't talk about me how I felt, and you didn't fucking own up to the police that you weren't even fucking there. You're a liar. You were off at a nightclub, leaving 7 children at home, and leaving a 10-year-old in charge of a baby. Every holiday, I could set my clock by your drama. Holidays are stressful. I've hosted many Smith holidays, probably more than you did. And I can only remember one time this past Christmas where I might have melted down, but you melted down every holiday. Every holiday. you'd rage and scream and say, I quit, I quit. And then you'd go jump in the car and leave the house. I wonder where I got my abandonment issues from. You would bring me to restaurants when I was 12 and 13 and 14, and that was my special one-on-one time with you. But since you need to be the center of attention, you would make best friends with the total stranger waitress and be showing her pictures of your children, and you were ignoring me even during my time, my special time to be alone with my mother. I felt invisible and ignored. You were many times arrogant. You wouldn't listen to me. You were devaluing of me. You said horrible things to me. You made fun of the way I shook hands in a very nightmarish situation. You had a smirk and a swagger that was just devilish. And you could go from being in a good mood to raging just like this. Remember once you threw a glass across the room made out of plastic that my sister Renda brought to you? And you said you like glass glasses. And I remember on multiple occasions in a rage that you would hold me down and sit on me, and you weighed like 350 pounds, and I only weighed like 100 pounds, and I felt suffocated. And you surrounded yourself with other cluster Bs, including Uncle Bob. And Uncle Bob molested me. Just the night before last, I watched the movie Sleepers with Brad Pitt and Robert De Niro. And I hadn't done really much tear work, deep processing work on my sexual abuse since 1990. Here it was, 48 years later, the same year my little sister died. You arranged really for me to be molested. But I watched that movie and then I sobbed. And I had to be alone. I went out and laid on the porch and fell asleep on the porch and slept the whole night on the porch. But you surrounded yourself with men, and most of them I think you were having sex with, but some of them were predators having sex with your children. I remember never being able to relax around you. It was like walking on eggshells with you. You'd drive up in your orange Dodge Coronet, and even if I was smack dab in the middle of the most important episode of MASH, if I didn't immediately run down and get the groceries, you would honk the horn. You were just a selfish monster. And you turned all of us Smiths into food addicts. We've all been overly well nourished. You, as a borderline, could act quite wonderful. Everybody in the community loved you, but few people knew what a real monster you were. You know, I do want to thank you for what you did give me. You did teach me how to fight emotionally. I'll have to think on what else you gave me. But there was a fierceness that I brought into the world, and I think I got that fierceness from you. So I wrote a poem the night you died on Wednesday night, August the 6th, 1997, in a small cabin in Brown County, Indiana. And the poem was sort of bullshit. It did address some of the issues that you carried into my life, but it was sugar coated. So I've rewritten the poem. Folks, I'm gonna come out of character. I've often thought it would be funny if the real wedding vows were said at a wedding. You know, what really happened, if that could actually be said, would be really funny. So here's the real poem, Mom, not the sugar-coated one. And the poem is instead of Our Mom, the poem is called The Truth About Our Mom. Our mom was fun, but she had to be the center of attention at all times. She was loud and colorful and very spontaneous, but this also made her unstable and histrionic. She loved music and parties and people of any size, shape, color, or creed, but she was a user of people. And this was at the funeral, folks, so I said, I don't think my mom would want today to be a sad, dark occasion, but rather a celebration of her life. And that's because, Mom, you had two speeds, either being in denial and being all overly bubbly, or being ugly. So two speeds were clownish joy or fearsome rage. Our mom loved us poorly. She did not really love us as best she could. She tried to show it with hugs and kisses, but the truth is, Mom, when you touched me, my skin crawled. She mainly wanted to talk about herself, and she did not ever really take an interest in my life. She tried to show love with biscuits and gravy in the morning and stuffed green peppers and fudge at night. And this turned the whole lot of us into food addicts, because the only way we could feel loved was to get fed. Our mom, if you can picture this, was like a vicious Doris Day on steroids. She had the unbridled joy of a child, the zest for living of an imp, a singing voice that made you feel all warm and magical on the inside. But she also had the rage of a genuine monster. Our mom loved us poorly. She did not really love us as best she could. She showed it by giving our kids really shitty gifts and never really being close to most of the grandchildren, maybe one or two. You did hold us together in our home when we were scared and needy little ones, but many times you created an environment that was nightmarish and terrifying. Our mom loved to eat. She ate herself to death at the tender young age of 58 years old. I'm 58 years old, and I feel like I'm 25. And I'm hoping to live another 35 years. And you ate yourself into the grave when you were 58 years old. You should still be here. While she loved to laugh, that was just a cover for deep depression. And she sure did love to spend money. She used people financially, including me. She robbed her own mother's clothing store blind. I heard stories, Mom, that you would bring my sisters into that store and use flashlights and crawl around on the ground while you stole clothes out of that store. Who does that? That was your mother's clothing store. You were a criminal. in my previous poem, I made fun of your Irish temper, but it wasn't an Irish temper to be joked about, but rather an abusive, scarring rage that deeply wound every one of your children and turn them into either ragers or people that are too stubborn to listen, or both. You always knew what my mom was feeling. There was never a dull moment with Virginia Pat, the Democrat. But Mom, there was also rarely a safe moment. Our mom loved us poorly. She did not love us as best she could. The real truth is that I was always ashamed and embarrassed to be your son because you weighed 350 pounds, and that was embarrassing to me. You were not remarkable at all. You were unforgettable, and you were obnoxious, and you acted a fake brand of wonderful. You were sunshine and roses and a thundercloud. And God help us, you left a legacy. Although most of your life was uneven and completely out of control, because you were robbing Peter to pay Paul. Today, the day of your funeral in 1997, you left a broken, dysfunctional, and equally obnoxious family behind. We loved you, but the truth is, most of us were like you because we're too controlling, and we're loud, and we're sometimes filled with rage, and we too sort of like being the center of attention. We play hard, we eat too much, we're large and in charge, and the truth is, at the end of the day, at the end of the childhood, we sort of suck at loving our own families all that well. I think my recovery helped me give my children a whole lot more than you gave me. In the long run, we love them poorly at best. We've all learned to deal with life in our own different ways, and we looked blessed and financially prosperous and strong, but we absolutely do owe you for our insanity, our addictions, our dysfunction, and our shatterings. That's on you and on our codependent, passive, sweet father. Mom, you'll be missed in a way of losing hope of ever getting something that I never ever really had. Your memory will live on deep within me, dancing like a little girl on the screen of my mind and haunting me with nightmares of your horrifying screaming and raging. Our mom loved us poorly. She did not love us as best that she could. Leave her on the screen here a little bit. So, folks, I hope that wasn't too intense for y'all. If that wasn't too intense for y'all, then make an appointment with your therapist and talk with a friend in recovery, talk to your sponsor, have a good cry, nurture yourself. Don't worry about me. I'm a very strong man. That wasn't hard for me. I mean, it was hard, but I feel great. You know what crying does is it cleanses you. So I just got pieces of work done that I couldn't do talking to a therapist. I had to talk to my mom. There's this wonderful movie called Mother Out, starring Albert Brooks and Debbie Reynolds. And Albert Brooks trying to sort out his relationship with his mother, which he eventually does. But he's sitting at a bar after his second divorce, and he's talking with a buddy, and he goes, "What? Why do you have trouble with women?" The buddy says, and he goes, "I don't know. I pick women who aren't supportive." And the buddy says, "Dude, that's fucked up. Why do you pick people who aren't supportive? I would never do that." And he goes, "I don't know why I pick women who aren't supportive, but I think it has to do with my relationship with my mother." And the buddy says, "You need to go to therapist, brother." And Albert Brooks says, "No, I don't need to go to therapy. I need to go talk to my mom." So he went out to California. He set his room up like it was when he was a teenager. He just hung out until he figured it out, and he did. Brilliant, brilliant therapy movie. So, that's empty chair work, y'all. Powerful, powerful, powerful stuff. So, don't worry about me. I'm strong. I'm good. I'm going to the beach today. I'm not fragile. I'm not broken. Please don't send me comments that say how fucked up I am and that I shouldn't be on the airwaves because I'm a crying little kid. I'm not a... That was normal. Every one of us has a wounded little kid in our heart. Some of us just have the depth and the strength to tap into it. Hey, if you haven't joined our YouTube channel, please do that. Also, I've got books on abandonment issue, affair recovery, and shame. In 2 weeks, Jerry Wise is going to join us for our live stream. Part of why I haven't been making videos is I wanted to make room for Jerry, because he rejoined our channel 3 weeks ago and he's killing it. He's on fire. He's made like 9 videos and they're all awesome. So, but I was inspired to make this one. I'm going to make one for my dad, and I'm going to make one on April 26th about my shattering. So, have a wonderful Sunday today. I hope this spoke to you. I hope it didn't rattle you too much. Thank you for watching, folks, and God bless.